I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice President Gates, welcome everybody. Wonderful to see a full room tonight. Want to also take a moment and extend thanks to everybody who has joined us in the foyer here at the Educational Services Center, and also a very hearty welcome to everybody who has joined us via our YouTube live stream feed. We appreciate the public participating in our school board meetings. Certainly it's great to see you. We'll call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Board members, any changes or additions to tonight's proposed agenda? Administration?
The administration has no changes.
Then do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the Monday, May 23rd, 2022 regular board meeting as presented?
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Next up is the approval of minutes. Board members, any additions or changes to the minutes from the April 25, 2022 executive session and regular board meeting? Hearing none, administration.
The administration has no changes.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the April 25, 2022 executive session and regular board meeting as presented?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. That motion also carries by a vote of 7-0. Well, Dr. Thacker, I understand we have some exciting things to announce tonight, so let's get the superintendent's announcements and recognitions.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. Welcome, everyone. Delighted that you are here. Joining us this evening for her last report of the school year is our outstanding student board ambassador, Manal Bush. Manal, please join us.
Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, and members of the board. Tonight, as always, I'll be sharing some fine arts, athletic, and academic highlights, as well as some Kingsman Court updates. So, in fine arts news, Penn Symphonic Winds placed 7th at the ISMA State Finals in Indianapolis this month, and that marked our 19th consecutive qualification for Penn in the Indiana State Concert Band Finals. So that's very exciting. In athletic news, our boys rugby team became Midwest champions after defeating Ohio's St. Ed's team this month. Our boys and girls track and field teams and our girls tennis team are all sectional champions this month. And our softball girls claimed their NIC crown with a perfect 11-0 record this year. In staff news, our Penn math teacher, Angela Urell, was named Ivy Tech's Amazing Teacher, and Miss Urell teaches within our Early College Academy. In academic news, Penn has been named a Project Lead the Way Distinguished School. Our 2022 Senior Recognition Night was also a very wonderful success. Almost half of our Kingsmen are graduating with academic honors diploma this year, which means that they accumulated at least 47 credits and they have a GPA of at least 3.0. Senior Matthew Zhang is a semifinalist for the 2022 Presidential Scholars Program, and he was one of only 160 students nationwide that were recognized with such an honor. Our Kingsman of the Year, which was voted on by all of our graduating seniors, was Gurkrat Singh, and our Schmucker Award winner this year was Cole Black. We have 17 valedictorians this year, and our 17 valedictorians have an average GPA of 4.37 on a 4.0 scale, and we have 5 salutatorians with an impressive GPA average of 4.27 on the 4.0 scale. We also have 105 seniors graduating from Early College Academy this year, and the majority of them, I think about 70 or so, are graduating with an associate's degree alongside their high school diploma. So that's very exciting. I think their Ivy Tech graduation was just last week. So, and then moving on to Kingsman Court news, our senior sunrise was last Friday, and this is kind of our culminating event at the end of the year for all of our seniors. It's our second year running it, and we had about 180 seniors come to watch the sunrise together on the football field. We provided donuts, and Mr. Gallagher was kind enough to provide a coffee cart, which was, I think it outshone our donuts a little bit, but that was fine. We had about double last year's turnout, which was very exciting, and I think next year we'll expect an even higher number. And we also had our seniors dress up for our decision day in their committed college merch last week. So that was very exciting. And pictures from both of those events, as well as pictures of our map with our seniors' little dots on where they're going to college, are available on our Instagram, Kingswood Court's Instagram, and then also the school's Twitter account. I also, for the last thing, have a very special guest to introduce to you guys. This is Kiara von Eschenbach, and she's a current junior. Kiara is going to be taking my place as school board ambassador for next year. So she's a junior, she'll be a senior next year, and she's been coming to these meetings, so she kind of knows how everything goes. But I wanted to introduce her today. It's really nice to meet you all, and I'm really excited for next year. Yep. Perfect. Have some big shoes to fill. So that is all we have for you tonight. So thank you very much.
Well, we have some things for you.
Oh,
You have the admiration and appreciation of 7 school board members. You've been with us 2 years. Maybe a lot of members of our public don't realize, but our student ambassadors typically just have a 1-year tour with the school board. We liked her so much that we brought her around for a second tour. It's like Elton John's farewell tour, it just never ends. Well, if there could be a 3rd year, we'd love to have you for a 3rd year, but we understand that you have great things to accomplish in life, and you're off to the University of Notre Dame, and in a week or more, when commencement occurs, you'll be walking across the stage, and I'll get to give you your diploma. There's a little secret. It's not actually your diploma.
yeah, I've heard.
But you know what? That's going to be one of the highest honors of my life. And I mean that sincerely. You have been outstanding. And so if it's okay with you, Dr. Thacker and I would like to have our pictures taken with you. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, that is
Don't forget
okay.
to sign it.
Where should I?
Okay. Dr. Jim's dressed for a nice blended background.
Beautiful.
And how about one with Tiara before we
Thank you.
And before you go, you've probably been given 18 of them. Here's your last one. And Kiara, here's your first.
Triangle success.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Best of luck to you, Manal.
It is my pleasure to introduce Penn-Harris-Madison's 2022 Secondary Teacher of the Year, Becky Hope. I'm going to have Becky Hope come up. I'm going to introduce each one, then we're going to introduce their guests, and we're going to take some pictures. Okay? Then let's see if we could have the Elementary Teacher of the Year, Amanda Fox.
Congratulations again.
And then our Classified Employee of the Year, Julie Dembski.
Dream team.
And we're going to let each one of you say something, make a few comments, and then we'll get a picture of you.
No, first, your favorite's already there.
Well, I thank you so much to the board and to Penn-Harris-Madison Schools. I'm so humbled by this recognition. I look at the students that just came ahead of me, and those are the kind of kids I get to work with, the privilege to work with every single day. Every day is a joy. The kids came in today fired up. We've only got a few days of school left, and they're there making their Kingsman crowns, walking around, wearing them in class, so excited to be Kingsmen. And I just cannot thank you enough for the opportunity to share my love of teaching with students. I want to see them become lifelong learners, lovers of art, and lifelong learners. And they prove that to me every day. It is a joy, a pleasure. I'm humbled because I work with phenomenal people. I'm so lucky, and I'm very humbled by this recognition. I work with people that stand way above me, and I'm so thrilled to learn from them every day. So thank you very much for this honor.
I feel like I've just seen you all. I stand here tonight full of pride, excitement, pure joy. The last few weeks for me have been the most uplifting, encouraging of my career. I'm days away from summer break, and I feel more excited about teaching than I ever have before. Being named Elementary Teacher of the Year for Penn-Harris-Madison is something that will forever be my fondest memory. I worked extremely hard and taken action to initiate meaningful change in my classroom and schools. I don't just talk the talk, but I walk the walk, leading in what might be the most impactful way possible, modeling. I believe an outstanding teacher is one who always is striving to be better. An outstanding teacher does not become stale, doing the same thing the same way every day, year after year. Being willing to look at things in a different way and try new things is the mark of an outstanding teacher, and I think we've all exhibited that. She is one that makes the mark on her students by encouraging them, pushing them, and taking them to levels they never knew they could reach. In the morning, I'm going to get on a plane for Washington, D.C. I have one final celebration for my PAEMST award, for which I feel has led me to the accolades I am receiving the last few months. I'm thankful and blessed to have this opportunity. My cup is overflowing, and I'm so excited to be able to use this excitement to encourage others and reignite my own teacher flame.
Good evening, and I haven't met a lot of you, but I appreciate being here. I'm very humbled also by this award. I was in total shock, and I can't even explain how excited I was to be told when I walked in the room that I was the classified employee of the year. And that wouldn't have happened without the amazing staff at Schmucker Middle School. The administrators there, teachers are just absolutely wonderful. I love our kids. They're so, I mean, just every day walking in there and seeing their smiles and saying good morning to them is a dream come true. So thank you very much.
Ladies, want to come out here? We're so proud of you. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anybody here you'd like to introduce? Okay.
Hopefully
Go
my
on here.
kids are all home in bed.
Congratulations. I'm so proud of you.
Safe travels, Mrs. Fox.
Well, but before you
Be watching Instagram and Twitter.
it's obligatory.
Do you get to meet the president or Mrs. Biden? Dr. Biden's there.
Put that underneath your notion.
You know, Biden is gonna be. Thank you so much. Have a great trip.
Thank you.
Oh, my.
Well, obviously, we congratulate Becky, Amanda, and Julie on being chosen as PHM Secretary and Elementary Teachers of the Year and Classified Employee of the Year. It was wonderful listening to them at the awards banquet last week. One thing that cannot be questioned is the fact that their hearts are in the right place. That's why they got the awards and the recognition that they received. So congratulations again. And next up is our consent agenda.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. The administration recommends approval of the 18 items appearing on the consent agenda. Appearing on the personnel report under classified staff are 2 retirements. Jackie Trader, Educational Assistant for the Young Adults Program at Schmucker Middle School, and will retire at the end of the school year after 28 years of service to PHM. Mary Lee, food service worker at Penn High School, retire May 31st, 2022, after 23 years of service to PHM. And on behalf of the board and administration, we wish these dedicated employees the very best in their upcoming retirements.
And then also, do you have some leadership changes to announce?
We do have some, I'm very, very excited to wish our outgoing administrators in the different roles the very best for them, and good luck in their future endeavors. But as we look at the leadership changes, and we'll invite these people to come up as we introduce them. We have Cameron Brundage. Cameron Brundage has been a teacher at Discovery Middle School. He was a math teacher. He's been a dean at Penn High School. He's developed his skills. He's going to be fantastic. He's a new assistant principal at Schmucker Middle School. And then we also have Christina Lawrence, who's going to be a new assistant principal at Schmucker Middle School. She's an English teacher at Schmucker Middle School. She was an instructional leader and coach, and she was part of our MBA program that we got from Kelly School of Business a number of years ago. We're very, very proud of both of them. And then as we look at Penn High School, we have Jeannie Mitchell, new assistant principal. Jeannie Mitchell has been a French teacher, PHM Teacher of the Year.
I think they're on a 5-second delay outside.
Okay. So Jeannie Mitchell has been a French teacher, She's an academy leader. She was a PHM Teacher of the Year. She's an Indiana Department of Education finalist, top 10 out of 60,000 teachers. So she's a phenomenal educator. Will be a new assistant principal at Penn High School. Then I would like to introduce our Director of Safety and Security, Tommy Teeter. Tommy's been a school resource officer at PHM since 2019. He's been a sergeant at the Sajo Police Department. He's been, as I said, an SRO working at building relationships, PHM community. He has been a member of the district threat assessment team to work closely with Mike Sager on safety issues. He's a leader in school safety, and he's been outstanding throughout his career. Okay, then we have Rachel Hugenboom. Rachel is a new administrative assistant, and we're just absolutely delighted to have her. She has a background in human resources and finance, has her degree in psychology from IU South Bend. So these are the newest people that we have.
That'll be beneficial.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Board members, any questions or concerns? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the May 23rd, 2022 consent agenda as presented by Dr. Thacker?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye. Aye. Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Take some pictures.
Yeah, we'll take some pictures.
Yeah, that's right.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Look at this.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Proud of
you
you.
need some up here.
Congratulations. Come up here, Rachel. Congratulations.
I get to go.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay, now, is there anybody here that you'd like to introduce?
Oh, yeah, sure. So my better half, Kim.
Please stand. Yeah.
Behind that entire row is all of my, well, 4 of the 5 children. The other one ran off with my grandson. So that's all them too, so.
My husband Ryan is sitting in the back.
Photographer.
My wife Dale is here with our 2 girls, Millie and Lennon.
My husband Kevin and my daughter Madeline are here. And I'm alone.
You were supported by all of them. Congratulations, I'm so proud of you all. You're fantastic.
Thank you.
I have to give you the lapel pin. It's obligatory. Wait here.
You guys did a great French.
You got your 7th graders. Hey man, I can tell how that does not feel comfortable. Hey, congratulations.
So is it Mr. Teeter now? Or is it correct? You get to keep all the.
Tommy will still be fine.
Now it's hey you.
Well, with the way he shakes hands, he's gonna be president someday. We'll move on to our discussion action items for the night. The Penn High School presentation on proposed overseas trip to Japan. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley, Board of Trustees. We have a really exciting opportunity for our students to go to Japan the summer of 2023. And so the presentation will be, to Japan will be made by Penn High School Japanese teacher, Bonnie Wolfgang.
And you know, while we wait for Bonnie to come in, I neglected to announce to the families who have joined our school board meeting, you are welcome to stay for the full balance of the school board meeting. But we understand if you want to go home and do things such as have dinner or take care of the kids, that you are welcome to do that. So Bonnie, before we begin, if now's the time you want to
The great escape.
We'll still be a captain.
こんばんは。Wolfgang Bonnie です。はじめまして、どうぞよろしく。Dr. Thacker, Mr. Riley, and members of the board, thank you for allowing me to present my proposal to you this evening. I'll have to learn how to do all this, of course. So Yamate Gakuin is a school in the Yokohama area of Japan, and they have actively sought Penn as a partner in their exchange. They have 500 students that go to 10 to 12 North American schools. And so they have in Canada and most recently Elkhart, some in Fort Wayne, etc. So 40 of those students would be coming to the PHM Elkhart area. And then we would take our 20 and we need 10 homes because they like the students to be hosted 2 per home. So we would need 10 Penn High School students and their families to host students. And then our students in return would have an opportunity to travel to Japan to experience the language and culture firsthand. Okay, so which is exciting to me to think about after 28 years of teaching here. So hosting Japanese students would happen in April 14th to the 28th, and the Japanese students would spend 10 days in shadowing students at Penn High School and then visit area attractions such as the Amish area, Chicago, maybe a South Bend Cubs game or something like that. And then either attend or host. The Elkhart teacher has already hosted, so probably she would continue to host a culture day for PHS students and Elkhart students and their families. And then the Japanese students would stay with our host families, 2 Yamate students with each Penn student. And then in July 20th to the August 4th, the Penn students would have the opportunity to go to Japan then. And they would attend an opening ceremony of the exchange program. I'm sure Dr. Thacker would agree that opening ceremonies in Japan are very important. So that's why it's on the agenda tonight. And unfortunately, we would not get to attend classes in Japan because we will be there during their summer vacation. But however, they'll still have plenty of opportunity to experience the culture. They will go on 3 excursions, including one to Yokohama, a Tokyo excursion, and a Tokyo Disneyland tour. So yes, we Americans would be going to Japan to experience something American a la Japanese. And then they would participate in a culture day there as well. So that exchange of culture is very important in the program. And they would be housed and fed exclusively with their host brother or sister. So the participants would include approximately 20 11th grade students from Yamate Gakuin High School, at least 2 Yamate teachers or chaperones, 1 travel agent for the Japanese students, and then the interested Penn students. Of course, we're hoping for that magic number of 10 to host those 20 students, and you need 10 students to get the travel discounts, and of course their families. And so I would be the teacher representing Penn High School, and then Hiromi Hallett, who has done the exchange at least one time before, would be the Elkhart teacher, who's given me courage to do it because we would be really doing it together, working together. So downside for the students is the cost is quite high, in my opinion. I've estimated it high though, so that everybody can be prepared for the worst. So we're looking at approximately $3,000, which would include the airfare and bus service from and back to Penn, and passport fees, spending money, etc., health and liability insurance, all the travel within the country. The Gakuin actually provides money for entrance fees, even for the events here. Like if we took them to a Cubs game, they would pay those entrance fees for the students. It would pay for all the travel within the country, tourist incidentals, food, train fare, etc. Okay, so it's not, that whole 3,000 is not just for the base, that's everything that they might use. Of course, we would have the required forms, the release and waiver and liability forms, student and adult participant rules form, conditions for student trip termination form as far as behavioral incidents, written documentation of Yamate Gakuin requirements as well, and planning at least 4 required parent-student meetings so that we can get things initiated before hosting, before traveling, and at least 1 meeting for just cultural things that they would need to learn before they go, like how to take a bath in Japan and important things that we would take for granted but might be a little different for them. And of course, safety and security is of utmost importance. JTB will be make the travel arrangements, because that is the company that the Gakuin likes to use, and Hiromi Hallett has found good success with them as well. They specialize in educational trips. And so right now, Japan is one of the safest places you can go. My students have been watching Old Enough, where they send 4-year-old toddlers on errands. So it's very safe. You can walk at night and not worry about your purse getting snatched. The wild card, of course, is COVID right now. So we are monitoring that. If you look at the website that I've given here, it'll say it's 4, don't go, 3, you should consider it carefully, but that's because of COVID restrictions. And Japan is very strict about it. If you look at their numbers, their percentages are not as bad as ours, but they're very strict on who they let in. So they're just now starting to open up. And so the organizers of this program are hopeful that the program will run in 2023. All teachers and chaperones involved, of course, would have background checks or reference letters and to confirm no convictions or felonies. I thank you very much for listening, and am open if you have any questions that I have not covered in the slide presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Wolfgang. Board members, any questions, comments? Well, go ahead.
I have some questions. On the JTB, it looks like it's like the Japanese tour. Now, were you saying that the Elkhart has already gone over there and experienced the connection with JTB?
Yes.
Okay. And my other question is, when the students are over in Japan, will they be like, so they're staying at the host family and there's 3 activities, are they going to be meeting up daily for, like, how often will they be connecting with their American counterparts for group activities?
That's a very good question, and I cannot answer that for sure. I am assuming that they will not necessarily meet up every day.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
But regularly, like, be touching
Yes.
base with
Yeah,
the
so that
other-
is a disadvantage of them not going to the schools, because
Right.
if they were going to schools,
They would
shadowing the Japanese
see
students,
some-
they would certainly see each other every day.
Okay.
And I also think that just like we will be hosting them 2 per household, that they
Is that
will
the-
probably be with another American
Okay.
in their host families there too.
Okay. One other question then, will the same students or that come over necessarily be hosting, or does it not always work
Well,
that way?
I personally would like to require that if they want to go to Japan, they have to host in order to do that. However, I have heard of some students wanting to host, but not being able to afford
Right.
the trip to Japan. And so I feel like that is a good thing. We, you know, if it's a good
cultural
family and a good home and that they will accept someone, and that, you know, that might give somebody else who can afford to go on the trip the opportunity to go. So yes, I kind of want to require that they have to host in order to go. They don't necessarily have to go in order to host.
And those families aren't necessarily the same, like the kid that comes to stay isn't necessarily a
They
host
they
child as
want
well,
they
or
try to
they're
do
trying to
that.
do the same
They
thing?
try to do
Okay.
that. So that's where that would mess that up a little bit if we had someone host that could not go. So as much as they can, they try to do that. It's not
And are you
always
talking
possible.
about any fundraising ideas with the students interested?
I have not
Okay.
talked about fundraising at all yet. I'm not a big fan of asking other people to pay for their trips to Japan, but I'm not opposed. I mean, I'm open to it.
There might be some resources with China. We had a student work and then parents matching and paid for the trip, half of the trip all on her own in 7th, 8th grade. Like, so maybe even just brainstorming during some of those initial meetings.
Very open to
make it-
Nelson's Chicken.
Yeah.
fundraiser.
We are too.
Yeah, just as many people as could experience this, of course, would
Right,
be
right.
unique.
Yes.
That's all the questions. Sorry.
So tonight is just your first preliminary presentation to the school board, and you'll be coming back at a later time for the final approval of the trip. And between now and then, we fully understand you'll be working through lots of these details. We just really appreciate you creating this educational opportunity. What an extraordinary educational opportunity for our students, and all the hard work that you've put into it so far. So we appreciate it very much. We'll have you hang on, and you can take a seat in the front row, because speaking of extraordinary educational opportunities, Dr. Levon D. Knoll is coming up for a trip about Europe, and Dr. Thacker, I'll let you introduce it.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. This is really another exciting opportunity. And Dr. Dean Knoll has been on a number of these, and think about these cultural experiences, which is such a value add to the life experiences of those young men and women. So this is a trip to Europe, and Dr. Dean Knoll will fill us in on the details.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Thacker and President Riley, members of the board. It is a great joy to come to you with this good news again. I know I've been at this podium before, and I'm thrilled that I get to do it this evening. And personally, my heart is also full. I know I will not be at Schmucker next year, but I am just thrilled about our new leadership that's going to be joining us there too. And so my heart is full tonight with travel and Schmucker happiness. So I'm going to go through our proposed trip that we are looking to travel to Rome and Puglia for 7 days with our middle school students. So I will say, first of all, tonight, Allison Marsh is going to be the teacher leader for this team along. So her and I will partner for that. And she's getting lots of practice in already because she is currently in Washington, D.C. with our 8th graders. So she's getting her practice ready tonight, but she is an 8th grade social studies teacher at Schmucker, and she'll be joining us for planning this trip and working through that. So first of all, I want to talk about the fact that we do these trips is because we want students to be lifelong learners, right? That's part of our mission here at Penn-Harris-Madison, to prepare students for what's next, for the world that's obviously always changing. We know that. So this is really important to help prepare for their future. But we also know that one of the major reasons why we take these trips and where we select the locations is because it is so closely aligned to middle school curriculum. Specifically 6th and 7th grade social studies, but also our world language curriculum and our language arts curriculum. So I just pulled a couple examples of standards there that connect with this trip. And I will say personally, as a previous social studies teacher who taught kids about China, who taught kids about ancient Rome, to then take kids there and be in the Colosseum with them is a great joy. It is one of my personal highlights of being in the classroom, is to be able to teach students about it, help them understand it, and then actually go there and experience it firsthand. So I feel like it's important that you know that this trip was specifically selected to fit with our middle school curriculum. Then the next part, of course, is why we travel is for our students, right? That is why we go. We want to give them their experience, give them these experiences. And if you'll notice, all of these pictures are from previous trips. So there might even be some familiar faces in some of those photos, but just as a quick recap, or those of you who are new to the board, we have had a middle school travel abroad program running since 2009. Minus COVID, and we've had over 10 trips. So that's including China, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and Italy. I had to write them down to make sure I remember all of them, but I've had many successful trips, and we've had trips as small as 20 up to 90 people traveling with us. So we've had quite a good variety. This trip will be traveling, of course, in the summer of 2023. So all current 6th and 7th graders in good standing will be eligible to enroll in this trip. And then, of course, they will travel when they are 7th and 8th graders. So again, we're doing all of our time in Rome this time. So in Italy, excuse me. So between Rome and Persia is where we'll spend most of our time. And then this gives you kind of a day by day of the trip. So flying, of course, spending our time in Rome. And then I think the great part with this trip as well, too, is we have a tour guide who is with us the whole time. We'll talk about that with the safety factors here in a moment. But then we also have specific guides. So like when you go to the Colosseum, you have your guide who's your Italian guide who's with you the whole time. But then you also have someone who is specifically well-versed in the Colosseum and those specific things to give any more enriching information to our students. So then this is also important to talk about what's included in this itinerary. So of course, the round trip, the airfare, the hotel stays. We also have regional meals. So in Italy, it will include pizza. Kids love that. Can't go without that. Then of course, the tour director, which I mentioned, who is with us the whole time. Then transportation in country is included, those local guides that we discussed, other guided sightseeing things that we do in the area, and then also entrances to all of those places that are on our itinerary as well. Oops. So because we are planning so early, they give us a window of time to get our students kind of the best time to travel. So it is a 7-day tour. So we're shooting for June 26th to July 2nd, but you can see that kind of goes either way. And one of the reasons that we like to plan this so early is because then it makes it more affordable for families. So the earlier we plan, the earlier we get locked into those prices, it makes it more affordable for parents. So that just kind of helps you give the gauge. And we usually know 2 to 3 months out when our official dates are. So it's not like it's a last minute piece for that. The next one that we talk about is we are traveling with EF. So EF has always been the company that we have traveled with for the past 10 years. They've always been very responsive. I know when we first started traveling, we were one of the first middle school groups they took that was this large. So we would make recommendations for, okay, so for middle school kids, we shouldn't have half a day without any plans. Like we really need to have things on the itinerary. So over the years, they've been very attentive to that. I can think back, there was times when we took a trip to China, the flight was delayed. They got us another flight into Canada and then bussed people back. I mean, they just have really been great with us to work with us along the way. So that's helpful to know kind of our history with them, as well as they do have a home office in many countries. And specifically, they have a home office in Rome. So they have people on the ground while we'll be going. And of course, safety is our number one priority, and that's also the same with EF2. So they put a lot into that, and a lot of communication with families and the phases that we go through. So just things like the local support, like I said, we have that tour guide who's with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, as well as their people there on the ground, right, in Rome, and then as well as they have. I mean, I've had to call people in the middle of the night sometimes for communication with families or whatever, and they've always been very, very good about that. And the same thing with health standards. So I talked to our EF partner coordinator for the Midwest here for his area. We talked about things that they have in place. They've been traveling abroad with students since October of 2021. So they've been very familiar with COVID protocols and are on top of those things with whatever country you're going to. So they've been helpful in that as well. Insurance, this is another thing that always comes along because I know there's always, with COVID, just the uncertainty of how things are going and that different piece. So for our group, we have the Peace of Mind program. So that's for our whole group. If there was some reason that we needed to change dates or something for our whole group, they would be flexible with that. Also for each traveler, the price of the trip includes the global travel protection. So that's one that adjust as you go as you get closer to the trip, but they also have added something recently since COVID, and knowing that sometimes we do have to make last minute changes. So parents can elect to add the $295 cost where they can cancel up to 24 hours prior to departure to get almost all of their money back, minus their insurance and kind of registration fees. So that's been something that's new. Then also they have a risk-free enrollment period. So if they enroll right away, then parents have 30 days to kind of change their mind. So they can kind of sign up for that, just make sure that the payment plans work for them and that they're okay with them. So those are just a couple options that they've been gracious enough to incorporate into their plans for us. So here's the Italy 2023 details overall. So it gives you Rome and Puglia, the dates that we're shooting for. The total cost for the trip is $3,570. That is for students. We do, of course, take parents. I know some of you have traveled with, or family members I have traveled with. So there's also parents can go with us. We like to reserve it to really one family member per family. So we have a student and a parent if they would like to come. The cost is a little bit more for parents to go as well. Another couple of things was finances that EF has adjusted. They obviously have a flexible payment plan that you can choose. They also have a personal tour donation page. So going back to what Mrs. Gates, what you said, we really plan ahead so our students can earn money. I remember one time going to the farmer's market and chatting with kids about traveling. And then I ended up finding out they were planning to go on our trip before we even started. They were starting to raise money already years ago. So we've had many middle school students have been paid for most or all of their trip ahead of time. We also have families that get together to fundraise. And this donation page is another additional thing that EF has offered to students as well. So we talked about the safety and support, and then student and academics, just a reminder that it will be open to current 6th and 7th grade students, and then next year it will be 7th and 8th grade students who will go on that, and it's directly connected to academic standards. And just something I'm passionate about, to give kids that global perspective and really connect to the greater world. We do so many amazing things here at Penn-Harris-Madison. I absolutely love that, but I also love having the opportunity, find a great joy to be able to travel with students and give them that global perspective as well. So that sums up kind of the basic information I have, but I would be glad to answer any questions, field any questions that you have about this proposal.
Board members, besides your amazement, any comments or questions for Dr. Dean Noel?
Yes, I have a question, a couple actually. Number one, I'm sure you mentioned it in there, but is there a health insurance benefit in one of those?
Yeah, that's part of the included cost that's in our other ones. Mm-hmm.
Make sure that had that, especially with COVID and everything.
Yeah, and we've had visits we've had to do before where kids have been ill or whatever, and they help. That's where the 24/7 tour guide helps, because they can get us to, you know, if we need to get ibuprofen from somewhere, or if we need to do a
Also, it's very
hospital trip.
important that they have something that covers them out of the country, because I know a lot of times a health insurance plan doesn't cover you if you travel outside the United States.
Absolutely. Yep.
Secondly, I was wondering, is this just Schmucker students? I mean, is it only open to Schmucker?
No, it's open to all students. So, yep, anyone from Discovery, Grissom, or Schmucker. Yep, any current standings. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Dean Noel, thank you so much for your presentation. It's always delightful to see you. If you'll hang on just a second.
Sure.
And we do have a parent who has signed up to talk about this particular agenda item. So we'll talk to Mrs. Christy Witt.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Christy Witt. Board, thank you for letting me speak. I think it's great that we're getting back to our children being able to go on educational field trips and even travel abroad. This week, our 8th graders are in DC, and I know there's so many unknowns when it comes to traveling with our students with COVID and now monkeypox. My daughter's taking French and would love to go to France her senior year, but I can't get over how her DC trip was handled. It was canceled due to COVID, and I completely understand that. But for those who spent countless hours fundraising and earning money for that trip, the handling of those funds was a debacle. DC is not a PTO-sponsored trip. I know parents in the past who earned more money than the cost of the trip and had a check written to them. I'm not looking for that. I spoke with the treasurer at the time, the principal, and Jason Snyder. Nothing was resolved. Discovery PTO chose to keep all that money and will draw 19 names to win a $1,000 scholarship once they are seniors. 19 chances out of how many kids? I assume many kids that were going on that trip aren't even going to college. They're going in the military or doing a trade. So that's at least $19,000 that's sitting somewhere for 4 years. Why did that money not follow the child to the high school to go towards band, equipment, or future trips? It wasn't even allowed to be passed on to a sibling. The other 2 middle schools were told were refunded. We were told they were refunded, and we know that. So Grissom and Schmucker refunded those parents.
Mrs. Harper wouldn't have allowed this to happen. Who will be drawing those names in 2 years? The kick in the teeth that PTO president now runs your PHM Educational Foundation. Many parents were upset about this and have chosen to not support, volunteer, or donate another dollar to PTO. That is not a good look. One PHM under one triangle did not happen in this situation. One school board member months ago mentioned being excited for her kids to travel post-COVID on these future trips. That extra money following my child would have allowed my kid to have that experience too. We must do better in handling situations like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Witt. Okay, well, and thank you again to Mrs. Wolfgang and Dr. Dean No. We appreciate all the opportunities that you're making for our students, and we understand that you'll be coming back at a later time as your plans crystallize and present them to us in final form. And we're so excited for you and so excited for the students. Thanks so much. We'll move on to item number 9, which is our instructional report, which is a focus on Penn High School Academies. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. We're really excited to present this to the board. This Academy's presentation is always exciting. And so we have Dr. Short to introduce this presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Rachel Fry, who will also be joined this evening by Mrs. Jenny Schaefer, as well as Mrs. Jeannie Mitchell, who we saw a little earlier, and they are going to give a great overview and explanation about both the Exceptional Education Academies as well as the Freshman Academy at Penn High School.
Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, and members of the board. Sharing exciting updates about initiatives and success stories that exist at Penn High School is really an honor. While being reflective practitioners is part of our daily work as educators, it is around this time of year that true collective reflection occurs in order to make the best decisions for our students as we plan for the next school year. As you hear information related to Penn's Ex-Ed and Freshman Academies tonight, I hope that you share my pride in the incredible work going on in each academy, but perhaps more importantly, the collective efforts of inclusivity promoted through their combined tasks and goals. On both a personal and professional level, I'm thankful to the administration for leading and supporting these initiatives and to the teachers and leaders making it happen. It is my pleasure to turn it over tonight to Ex-Ed Academy Leader, Mrs. Jenny Schaefer.
Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, and members of the board. I'm honored to present tonight on behalf of Penn's Exceptional Education Academy. Along with Mrs. Zimmer, Mr. Tubbs, and Mrs. Mitchell, we will present ours and Freshman Academy updates. To start off, the Exceptional Education Academy provides educational services to students with IEPs. We strive to build student independence as they learn skills throughout high school and promote inclusion throughout our school community. In these efforts, I'm going to highlight some of how we do this. Our work experience program is celebrating 20 years this year. We collaborate with 12 different businesses in the community. In the last 3 years, even with COVID, we've expanded our program to create a workshop type setting on campus for students who don't fit the mold of having a typical job. We were given a grant in 2019 for this workshop setting, and we've been self-sustaining since. We continue to look for ways to expand our program as we create a more meaningful job for students on campus and in our community. Our pre-employment transition services are a way, Our pre-employment transition services are a way to close that gap between high school and employment or post-secondary training. We have a transition specialist, Liz Hambrecht from Logan, who works in our school on skills such as job exploration, self-advocacy, and post-secondary goals. She is an invaluable resource to families, especially when navigating those services after high school. One activity Liz also helps with is our group of volunteers at Cultivate Food Rescue. With Mrs. Zimmer's lead, this group has prepared 11,189 meals in a 3-year period. They've volunteered 24 2-hour shifts, and you may have seen the several new segments on their 10,000 meals milestone. Back in the classroom, we provide support for students for their general education classes. Some students with disabilities need greater support, and our learning strategies classes do a great job of helping students stay organized, keep up with their assignments, and earn those grades to meet their goals. Some of our students need a higher level of support. To work on these goals, students in our education and training classes go on community outings throughout the week during their class. They do a variety of learning activities in real world settings. For example, students visit local restaurants and practice their communication skills, their math skills, and practice at being as independent as possible. Every student accesses this in various ways. Some use communication devices to order food, while some use picture cues to remember how to participate. But all students are able to practice these skills in a real life setting, learning how to be active community members. And finally, an update on our inclusion initiative. As we shared last year at our school board meeting presentation, we increased co-teaching experiences this school year. We've learned a ton, and now we're sharing this knowledge with other schools. As we increase our co-teaching classes next year, I'm going to turn the presentation over to one of our exemplar co-teaching partnerships, biology with Mrs. Zimmer and Mr. Tubbs.
Thank you so much for your time and the opportunity to present to you. One more, I think.
That's the laser pointer.
Say teamwork, inside and outside the classroom. Maybe we don't know how to work independently. So co-teaching, what does it look like? It's really a partnership between the general education teacher and the exceptional education teacher. I rely on Brendan for his science expertise, and I'm able to contribute adding the supports and services that allow for all of our students to be successful. That may mean accommodations, modifications, adaptations, so that all of our students can achieve success and reach that highest level of achievement. We want all of our students to maximize their potential. Co-teaching may look different from one class to another, one day to another, one course to another. In the Freshman Academy, we have 4 co-taught courses for geography, math, science, and English. For us and our experience, I'd like to share just a little bit of the transition. So historically speaking, I taught applied biology to students with disabilities in a self-contained class. This year, I have combined my applied biology courses with Brendan Tubbs and then another course with Zachary Lopez. And that's done in a biology honors course. Penn High School is transitioning to even more of an inclusive setting. And we've had the support of many administrators and colleagues. We also have the collaboration with TIES. The TIES Center meets with us on a monthly basis. At Penn High School, we have a multidisciplinary team that includes administrators, speech pathologists, occupational therapists, and of course the teaching staff. And we continuously pursue our action plan and get feedback and support from them. Recently, we had 10 staff members join us for our biology PLC meeting. They did observations within our classroom, and then we had a question and answer session. They came based on the recommendation of the TIES Center. So we felt pretty honored that we were recommended as an asset to other corporations. During our visit, we shared the biology curriculum guide that Zachary Lopez and I created last year. Little did he know, as a student teacher, he was going to get roped into helping us onto the path of success this year. That curriculum guide is not just a guide, something that we created to sit on a shelf. It is a living, breathing, working document that we rely on every day. It helps guide our authentic learning opportunities for our students. It helps guide us assess that they are actually learning what we want them to learn. And it allows us to use differentiated instruction to the highest degree that we can. If students are not able to reach the content connectors, which are the alternate standards, we just continue to unpack them and meet them where they are, and then, guide their journey to the biology standards and content connectors. We're kind of proud of this, but TIES and
the Indiana Department of Education have used our biology curriculum guide as a resource and a standard across the state.
Thanks, Amy. So yeah, of course, I really appreciate everything Amy and Zach did for putting together those content connectors. So this year, when I started, I kind of had we had the expectation that we were going to be providing access to both curriculum and peers for our applied students who have traditionally been serviced in a self-contained classroom setting once they get to high school. I've left this year knowing that we've done so much more. So one accomplishment is in the last 4 months, students in the co-taught biology class have completed a project-based learning opportunity with Bodine State Fish Hatchery to produce educational materials for their kiosk to help educate the public about the ecological purpose of raising Pacific salmon and trout for Lake Michigan. So the DNR staff actually collaborated with all of our students to improve their understanding and their finished product. So they were part of a revision process to really get something out to the public to educate, like why these big fish are in our river. And and then later in that day, they even helped with a biological study where we look at the success of this tagging system that they use. And I'm kind of excited to mention this just because this was a class where we had, a very, very wide range of levels, and we didn't do less in it. We actually did more than all of our other classes, and I really think the diverse academic background and interests of our students made that possible. And also, despite having additional responsibilities of carrying out a PBL, they serve the community, while learning education principles. My co-taught biology class outperformed my other honors biology class, both in class averages and I learned passing rates. I believe that's also true for Zach Lopez's class. I've seen them grow emotionally and empathetically as they've realized that some moments are bigger than themselves. I feel like we're teaching one cohesive group of students, not two classes simultaneously. As the year went on, the students' ability to work together in our co-taught class continued to exceed our expectations, leading us to invite some students back next year for a new role. The kind of empathy and understanding our classes have showered on each other, even on the hard times, has been transformational. We didn't ask any students to rise to the roles that they came to, but by giving them the opportunity to be classmates with each other, they learned what it means to be leaders and partners. We decided to ask several students to become inclusive ambassadors for next year's co-taught science classes. So we're hoping that students that we had a lot of success with this year are going to come back for us next year and continue this culture of academic excellence and empathy. In this inclusive ambassador program, we are beyond excited to grow what we started this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have a comment. I am in awe of the beautiful work that you've done. I think the metaphor that I had in my head is you, through your efforts and your enthusiasm, raised all the boats in the harbor.
Mm.
What that spotlights about Penn High School as a learning community is really, really inspiring. So thank you. Thank you. I think I can speak for all of us. Thank every last one of your students, both the exceptional ed students who taught everybody else and the students that were in the honors class who taught everybody else. What an incredible story you shared with us. Thank you.
And the students are coming back as ambassadors to teach the next round of students. I'm really impressed, but not surprised, that because of the results you've achieved, the Department of Education is using our guide as a resource throughout the state. And imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, and it's well deserved. Thank you so much for what you're doing. The results are simply outstanding.
Thank you so much.
Real quick question.
Sure.
Pretext first. So as a parent of a child with Down syndrome who is currently in the school district, I'm a huge advocate of inclusion and have constant anxiety because right now she's only in third grade about what middle school in high school looks like, of trying to ensure that we achieve inclusion, but also that we meet her needs and her peers' needs in providing an appropriate education, right? So it's amazing because I don't have a familiarity yet with the high school programming to see this, because it helps with a degree of some of those fears of what I saw when I was in middle school and high school of education opportunities provided to individuals with disabilities. This biology program seems amazing, and it's great to hear the test scores and everything were even higher. So what's the plan then? If right now there's, I think you said 4 kind of co-teaching courses, what's the plan, or what's it look like? What's the future look like of kind of furthering this, or can you walk me through kind of a futures approach? I know, and that might be for somebody else out there. I don't, not to put it on you all. It's kind of a question to the group.
So, I mean, I can start off. So I teach 4 classes, and 2 of them are the co-taught classes. And then I also teach life skill classes. And those classes I also integrate with John Gensick, and we implement the STEMpathy Club. That's part of the NORA project out of Chicago, which is an inclusive-based program that spark friendships and teach empathy while you're doing STEM-based activities. And we've done that for 2 years. And so almost all my students are involved in some sort of co-teaching scenario. Obviously, in exceptional education, it's individually based. But for us moving forward, we're going to continue with the 2 co-taught classes, as well as our partnerships that we've secured this year. Our action plan is going to continue to build and grow. We're adding an environmental class that's going to be co-taught next year. And then we have many other co-taught classes in the other, content areas. I believe we're going to be adding a government and a personal finance. We're going to continue with the current courses that we have. Are there any?
Co-taught health.
Health, co-taught health.
PE, be co-taught. And then our freshman academy courses will double next year. So instead of just 1 section for each content area, they are going to double. So we will have 2 English, 2 math, 2 social studies, et cetera, next year. So we're going to continue to grow and phase in more opportunities as we see, and we have partnerships that naturally develop, and we're really excited about that.
Excellent. Thank you both very much.
Sure, thank you. It's been an honor. It's really been a great year. Thank you.
While I cannot live up to that presentation because my colleagues are amazing, I am here to talk to you about Freshman Academy. I love putting this number up here just to show how big Freshman Academy is, and I love this partnership because we take all, right? 9th grade, they come in and we try to create this, what is a large class, into smaller houses to make it feel a little less scary. They've got shared teachers. We're trying to create community and a sense of belonging. You know this, but I just wanted to share it. These are our goals, and this is an even better view of that inclusivity that we've got going now. Highlights this year, when I saw you last year, we looked at the freshman experience from behind a computer screen. So we're so excited to bring them back for their first day of 9th grade year in the classroom. Take 3 is a motto you know well. Take care of yourself, each other, this place. And we revamped what taking 3 looks like, joining in our Indiana employability skills. So we have a poster that we created, and every classroom has one of those, just to reiterate those things that we want to see, not just taking 3, but practicing critical thinking, empathy, collaboration. We highlighted freshman students with our house rockers. They get a t-shirt, they get celebrated and embarrassed. Response to intervention continues to be a focus from elementary to the middle school, and then as they come in 9th grade, we're continuing to track and provide interventions for students in their progress. One downside this year, we did not get to do some of our fun community building activities like the party out on the football field or some of our field trips. So when November came and everyone was feeling the grind, we had a freshman refresh. It was a mandated day of play. We incorporated, if you're familiar with the 7 habits of highly effective people, habit 7 is sharpening the saw. So we advocated for students to take a moment in order to keep going through a day-to-day. You have to take time to sharpen the saw. And what does that look like? Having fun, building community. So classes came up with unique ways to collaborate and have fun with students. I'll talk about 3 other highlights that we did this year as well, but when we look to next year, obviously continuing to build community, continuing these awesome efforts in co-teaching. It's amazing to see these 2 very amazing people with talents from different backgrounds come together and complement one another, and to hear students say, yeah, it's great, I have 2 teachers. There's not a difference in who they are or what they have to offer. They just know that these are 2 respectful educators in the room. And obviously RTI will continue to be a focus. Here are some highlights from this year, March Madness, organized by a Ben Case math teacher, where we took March Madness bracket planning, tied some math to it. We had a professor from Notre Dame come and give advice, math advice on how to build their bracket. We had a Shark Tank experience where students they're holding their $1 million check, created a research project and had to go through a Shark Tank experience. And then obviously the Bodine Fish Hatchery. It was really cool getting to see the salmon that they were actually growing. This is a picture of students running the salmon under a scanner, right? It tells information about the fish. Such a cool thing. End to end, I want to introduce, as you know, I'm transitioning into a new role, the Freshman Academy leader for next year, Ben Case, who is currently a 9th grade math teacher at Penn. He's a math instructional leader. He's been teaching 11 years, but he is an exemplar of engagement in the classroom. March Madness was his idea, just one of the many brilliant ideas he comes up with to make math fun and relevant. So I'm so excited. We're all excited to have him in this role. Do you want to say anything? You good? So on behalf of the Freshman Academy, Exceptional Education Academy, and our amazing co-teachers at Penn High School, thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you have any questions?
Well, we could go on all night long giving you praise and thanks for everything that you're doing for exceptional education. Suffice it to say, this presentation was just mind-blowing. Thank you all so much for everything that you're doing for our exceptional education kids. The results are outstanding, and I think the board is highly impressed with all of your efforts. I would like to send a very special shout out to someone I don't think quite gets enough credit. Jenna Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your vision and for helping our school administrators implement your vision. And thank you to our school administrators and our teachers from the bottom of our hearts. We really sincerely appreciate you and everything you're doing. And most especially appreciate you coming, spending your Monday night with us. It's great to see all of you. We'll move on to our next item, which is a business operational services action item. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Mr. Aaron Leskey will share a request for approval of a proposed classroom addition at Meadows Edge Elementary. Mr. Leskey.
Thank you, Dr. Thacker. Good evening, President Riley, members of the board. This evening, we are excited to request approval for a professional services contract with Fannie Howie for design and project management related to a proposed classroom addition at Meadows Edge Elementary School. The administration is recommending the addition of instructional space to accommodate up to 6 new classrooms. We haven't quite, we're working with the administration at Meadows Edge. As you're aware, we're going through a facility audit. And so we've had lots of meetings with the staff about what their needs are. And so we'll incorporate some of those needs into this addition. Currently, the building is using 3 portable classrooms. They're located outside of the school to deliver instruction and support services. This project will help to ensure that all future instruction takes place inside the building. In addition, the project will provide the much needed flexible space for our interventions and our support services. A timeline has been provided for you in the board packet. We anticipate construction would start around October, and we hope that it will be completed prior to the 23-24 school year. But again, based on material delays over the next year, we're hoping those improve. They're telling me steel is out 52 weeks. So again, that's why we're trying to get this started. Once the project is completed, the portable classrooms will remain. We'll use those as storage for the building. The estimated project is reflective of the current market. And as you're aware, it's a tough market out there. So they're placing the value of the project around $4.3 million. This evening, the administration is only recommending approval for the contract with Fannie Howie for the design services, and that's a lump sum fee for architectural and engineering services for $234,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Linsky. Board members, questions or comments?
Just one quick one. By doing this with Fanning Howie and getting things rolling now, and even though we won't be able to get the steel for like 52 weeks, are we able to like guarantee or lock in the price at this point rather than maybe be subject to increasing later?
Yeah, great question. So right now, Fannie Howie, after your approval tonight that we're requesting, they will work with us to finalize those designs. Those designs will be then taken out for bid, and then we will bring that bid back to you to award the actual project. So great question.
Mr. Linsky, will anybody have the opportunity to opine on those designs? Like, will it be brought to teachers to look at, families to look at, accessibility considerations?
Yeah, we'll work with the design. Actually, Meadows Edge, as you're aware, is a sister school for other buildings in our district. So from a design standpoint, we know what it's going to look like. From a access standpoint, all of our buildings are ADA compliant. Of course, any new addition would have to make sure that those are up to any kind of current building codes that might not have been in place when that building was constructed. And so, yes, we'll work with the administration and the stakeholders at Meadows Edge to make sure it fits their needs as we move forward. Great question.
Mr. Linsky, given that I know those portables or fans in the back are currently utilized, I know every day, by at least music, and I don't know the other three, if those are all used. Will the addition of 6 classrooms, has it been projected, analyzed, or looked at to make sure that in 5 years, we're not asking to add on 3 more classrooms and it's going to be incrementally more expensive because we're going to pay for mobilization and demob and all that multiple times?
Sure, great question. In fact, originally we were looking at the project as a 3 classroom project because that's currently what our needs are. We're building a 6 classroom up to a 6 classroom project, again, depending on what our needs are in that space. And we utilize, as you're aware, the demographer came in, he projects and provides those projections. Meadows Edge serves a diverse population, and we do have several more transient residences that would service that. So, those numbers do fluctuate, but we have control. We feel that 6 classroom is, as now we really, the three portables are not used, quote unquote, full time for students. Students visit those and utilize those during the school day. 6 classrooms we feel are going to will put Meadows Edge Elementary well suited for the future.
I just know that Elm Road also seen some explosive growth in the last year. And so I don't know, both of those schools kind of serve a very similar area. And so I wasn't sure of future demand.
Other questions, comments? Hearing none, board members, do I have a motion to approve the letter of engagement for professional services from Fanning Howie Associates, Inc. for the Meadows Edge Elementary School addition in the amount of $234,000 as presented?
I so move.
Second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, Mr. Linsky. Move on to our next item, which is the 2023 financial planning calendar. Dr. Thacker.
Thank you, President Riley and Board of Trustees. Again, this is for the approval of the 2023 financial planning calendar, and Executive Director of Business Services, Mr. Jerry Hawkins, will lead this item for us. Mr. Hawkins?
Thank you, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, members of the board. You have before you the proposed financial planning calendar or budget calendar. It follows a very similar timeline as we did last year. It does give us some flexibility if we were to have any questions or concerns. We would start with a budget work session on August 8th, and then begin the process from that point on. We've already begun a lot of the preliminary work that takes place by getting budgets back from our buildings and so forth. We do have in here as a tentative for the certificate of assessed value, which is for us because it determines our rate when we go forward. We have that for August, although we did not get it in August last year. So we're hoping we get it early enough, but we don't know. So that's a tentative. We will see when that comes out. And then you can kind of see basically the second board meeting in August, we begin the process by having the public hearing and the rest of the work that needs to be done with the budget, concluding in September as far as the budget goes for the board. And then a few other things have to occur after that. So be happy to entertain any questions that you might have regarding the process.
Board members, any questions or comments?
Given the, I had a question on the certification of assessed value. So given that the assessor's office, who does assess value, has seen a lot of challenges to assess valuation this year because of that increase that they've seen, do we anticipate that August is a legitimate timeframe to see the tentative certification of assessed value, given that this is a even more challenging year on assessed value than last year?
It's a tough question. I think so. They are currently up to date. It is required. The deadline is that they are to have it done by August 1. They did not meet that deadline last year, but indications are they hit a few bumps along the way up until it was a few weeks ago. They seem to kind of gotten caught up. I'm not sure where that was. There's only a handful of counties that are really any further along than we are at this point, but it's really hard to say. I would hope and expect that we would find it. If I had a crystal ball, I would say probably mid to latter part of August. That would be my assumption, but there's a lot of factors that I have no control over, no knowledge of, so we have to see. Not a very good answer, but it's the best I got.
Other questions or comments? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the 2023 financial planning calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. Mr. Hawkins, thank you. Always
you.
good to see you, sir.
Yes.
We'll now move on, excuse me, to the hearing of visitors. At regular meetings, the public is invited to address the board on general topics under the hearing of visitors without registering. A time limit of 3 minutes shall be enforced for persons wishing to speak during the hearing of visitors. As a matter of courtesy, we do ask everybody please to observe the 3-minute time limit and return to their seats when their time has expired. Board Attorney Jeff Johnson will keep time for you and let you know when your time has expired. It is requested that names and addresses be stated at the beginning of such comments. Individuals may speak only once during this section of the agenda. Personnel issues are absolutely not to be addressed during open sessions of the board. Concerns about individual employees of the district should be brought to the superintendent or to his designee. The board does not respond to questions or comments posed during the hearing of visitors. We do have a number of patrons who have signed up in advance to address the board under the hearing of visitors. So here's how we'll take things. I will call on the individuals who have signed up first to address the board. Then we will go to anybody who is here in the boardroom who has not signed up, then out to the foyer to anybody who would like to address the board who has not signed up. And then finally, Mrs. Hugenboom will go over to you and see if anybody has logged in and is wanting to speak to the board via our YouTube feed. So with that in mind, the board welcomes and thanks Janelle Horvath.
Good evening. Janelle Horvath, live in Granger. Go ahead and start.
Floor is yours, ma'am.
Okay. This is my first and last time I'll be speaking at a PHM school board meeting. I'd like to tell you a short story. A few students reported to a PHM staff member that another student made mention of his intention to self-harm. That staff member spoke with the student and didn't see a concern, so she sent him back to class.
She didn't contact his parents. The student, in fact, was the one who told his parents after school that day in anticipation of a phone call, but no call came. 3 school days and a weekend later, one of the parents called the staff member to find out why she didn't call. She said she didn't think it was a credible threat, so she didn't think it was necessary. Later in the conversation, she lied and said she did call and left a voicemail. What the staff member didn't know is that this student has made these self-harm comments in the past to his parents and was on suicide watch for months. The parents deserve to know that their child made these comments regardless of what the staff member felt. What if something had happened? What if the student did commit suicide? Would there be a major news story about how PHM dropped the ball? Would there be a lawsuit? The story is real. It happened 3 weeks ago, and that student is my son, Parker, and his life does matter. The PHM website states the Lifeline suicide prevention curriculum is incorporated into PE and wellness classes for the students to watch for warning signs of suicide and report them. The students did what they had been taught to do. The website also states PHM families, parents, and guardians are a key component to the success of the Lifelines program. Did you hear that? Parents are a key component to the success, so why wasn't I contacted? PHM doesn't care about our children. They care about sports scores and grade point averages and their 5 stars. They care about getting more money and looking pretty on the outside. The PHM is a mess on the inside, full of brokenness, lies, hypocrisy, and deceit. I graduated from Penn and was on the varsity golf team. I have great memories of my time at Penn, which is why we moved to Granger 10 years ago. I dreamed that my kids would be involved in sports and clubs and that my daughter would be on the girls' golf team. They would get a great education. However, Penn is not the same as it once was, and my dreams are not going to become reality. PHM's greed in making our children mask up for financial gain, teaching our children to fight racism with racism, pushing sexual ideologies and books in the school libraries, teaching our children CRT and lying that it's not happening, encouraging our children to question their morals and the teachings of their parents, and the desire to remove parents from the triangle of trust is just too much. We have enrolled our children elsewhere for the next school year, and to be honest, I'm really relieved to not have to deal with any of this crap anymore. PHM has failed my family. It was Deanna Ward that dropped the ball.
I'm just so sorry that happened, and thank you for sharing, and thank you for your son, and I hope you're getting what you need. I'd also like to say publicly that tomorrow night in our community, there's a suicide prevention going on at 6:30 to 8 to help you see. I'll be there too. Yeah, 6:30 to 8 at GCC. So
Your staff should be there. At least Deanna
thank
Ward
you.
should be there.
Thank you for
Parker.
sharing your story.
Can I say something to you? I just want to tell you how much you were loved. And you know why I can tell you that? Because for your mom to come here and to express these things shows how much she deeply loves you. And there are family members around you and friends of your family who love you as well. I just want you to know that. And I want to thank you for coming here with your mom and sharing your experience with us, okay?
All right, thank you.
This is what empathy looks like, compassion, right here. Not a surface speech.
Joy Rutten?
Hello, my name is Joey Rutten. I'm a senior here at Penn High School, soon to graduate. I'm frustrated. My dad is not allowed to come here to watch me speak, nor attend this board meeting. The reason is because he spoke up about problems with PHM's recent state-mandated tax hearings and was arrested last month. I feel he is innocent and should instead be appreciated in an inclusive community seeking transparency. Didn't PHM break state law recently about problems with their secretive and exclusive SAC meetings? What punishment came out of that? Did PHM have to pay a fine or go on probation? Did a staff member go to jail? My dad filed that complaint, yet only sought cooperation, not punishment. It's ironic that I personally witnessed, along with the rest of my family, a PHM staff member willfully violate a posted no trespassing sign at my own house to deliver a no trespass order for my dad to stay away from all school property. Did that staff member get arrested? I was taught in this school principles like freedom of speech, restorative justice, a speedy trial, and avoidance of excessive punishment. Hopefully, giving this speech doesn't affect my own graduation plans. My dad is cooperative and as always wishing to find positive solutions for problems. I ask this board to respond in kind, rescind the no trespass order, and immediately seek to rebuild positive relations. This is what leaders do. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey, very much. Tracy Cota?
Good evening, Dr. Thacker, President Riley, and board members. My name is Tracy Cota. I reside in Osceola. First, thank you, teachers and support staff. On May 10th, my child received a survey question in her language arts class. What examples of prejudice and discrimination have you noticed in your own life? This could be at school, home, or anywhere, was the question. I bring this up because on December 16th, 2021, Dr. Short sent an email to all principals that stated, I am writing to make certain you are all aware of the language surrounding the Protection of Pupil Rights Amendment. This protects my child and other children in this district. This is the second time this school year this particular teacher has disregarded school, state, and federal policy. On January 25th, I emailed the board about the first incident, not a single response. We are told to follow the chain of command when we have an issue. I have done so both times, only to be gaslighted by the teacher and the principal. This is not an oops, I made a mistake. It is a blatant disregard for policy and law. And by the principal and board's actions, they simply do not care. This cannot be tolerated. My heart goes out to all the teachers that are truly in it to educate. These rogue teachers, like my daughters, that feel the need to push sexual and racial beliefs on children need to be removed from our district. If the administration that we employ wish to let this continue, we need to fire them all. The school board that appoints them needs fired in November as well. I have watched month after month Mr. Garrett and Ms. Gates request CRT to be on the agenda, only to find that it's not on the agenda again this month. I listened to Mr. McCullough in February ask that our children remain masked for just a couple more days as he sat maskless in the board meeting. I watched President Riley have a man arrested for bringing important information on a $17.4 million bond for supposedly going over his 3 minutes, all while in the past allowing pro-maskers and pro-CRT speakers to go over their time. Parents, teachers, and support staff, I'm begging you to stand up and bring back good morals and education to Penn-Harris-Madison. We teach our children, if you see something, say something. Penn-Harris-Madison staff, you all need to do the same. In the past 2 months, I've received many messages from Penn-Harris-Madison staff thanking me for speaking out, but they can't say anything because they're afraid of retaliation. I've showed all my SOS friends these messages. We all have allowed this to happen in some sort of manner. Parents are deemed terrorists because we choose to speak out against the behaviors of some teachers and administrators, when all reality, it's just the opposite. They work for us. The triangle is broken and cannot be fixed with this superintendent and board in place. I will be doing my best to find another option for my daughter's education. Penn-Harris-Madison parents, I recommend you do the same. Government schools are just not safe anymore. They probably never were. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Cota. Mr. Bashira?
Good evening, Mr. President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board. I'm throwing away what I was going to say tonight. I'm going to go back to what I said a couple months ago. This district needs to get back to the basics. A teacher takes a sworn oath when a report that comes in about a child's suicide, that's supposed to be reported. That is the essence of what we're supposed to be seeing in this triangle of success. Teachers looking out for the student's best interest. We have struggles with the basics. We don't enforce dress code. We struggle with enforcing policies within our school. We don't know what's going on in our schools. The inmates are running the sound. The kids are pushing the limits of what they can get away with. It needs to be addressed. okay? As adults, we had great lives. We want to see better for our kids. I had a conversation with my daughter this past weekend. We're failing this next generation. We have the responsibility to make our kids' futures better than what it currently is. We have those opportunities. My daughter's going to be a junior next year. I love the district. We have great teachers in this district. We do have a couple rogue teachers in the district, as Mr. Garrett referenced last month. We need to weed the system of this problem, okay? The next thing is going to come to, as we talked about last month, was the referendum. And Mr. Turnwald had asked a couple questions. I understand he's new to the board, and his questions were addressed as, is this something we do annually? I can only remember back to a board meeting last summer when we were talking about bringing in outside counselors and asking about people's certifications. And I was told, oh, that's something that we always do. This is just not acceptable answers, okay? You gotta be able to think for yourself and vote no if you feel no. There's parents that are gonna be suffering now that this assessment's gone through. It's gonna be horrible. There's kids that can't afford to go on field trips. They can't afford to go to DC. They can't even afford to go on to the school trips that the school is trying to sponsor for these kids, and they don't have the money to do it. These are the kids that we're leaving behind when you make your decisions, okay? And Mr. Garrett, I'm very sad to see that your critical race theory discussion is not on the agenda again this month. People need to be held accountable, okay? This isn't an election thing. This isn't about November, but it quickly is, okay? You folks have a responsibility, and you got to answer. Dr. Thacker, we still haven't got an answer from you, and there's questions that have been put out in front of this board for the past year that's still going unanswered. So
3 minutes
please,
have expired. Thank you.
thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bashura. Appreciate it. Haley Bodel.
Good evening. My name is Haley Bodel, and I reside in Mishawaka. You do have my address on the green paper. After last month's school board meeting, I can no longer sit back and be silent anymore. As a mother of two and a 2011 grad of Penn, I'm very disappointed in the decisions this board has made without listening to parents and taxpayers, the people who have voted you into these seats. My husband and I no longer trust PHM to educate our children. Since withdrawing my oldest out of your schools in October, he is now thriving and is back to his happy and carefree self at home. After my youngest's last day at preschool this year, my children will no longer be in the seats of PHM school until there is change. I will make sure as a taxpayer and a voter that there will be change. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. That concludes all of our patrons who had signed up in advance to talk to the board. Is there anybody else here in the boardroom who would like to address the board? Mr. Dallas?
So I'm Ben, live at 13765 Creston Street in Mishawaka. Spoken here about every month for a while, I guess. You all see me speak here. Well, many of you don't know that I am the father of 3 biracial boys that go to this school. I don't talk about it because I don't think it's important at all. However, I will say this. If any adult ever, anywhere, tells my kids that their future, their potential is limited by their ethnicity, it's going to take a lot more than the timekeeper bandit to protect them. I'm telling you, nobody's going to tell my kids that their future is limited because of the way they look. That's disgusting. Okay, and that's a direct war on me when you do that and all these other parents. So that's not going to happen at all. Last but not least, 2 minutes, 44 seconds. 2 minutes and 44 seconds was all it took for a person speaking here last month to get arrested. Why was he arrested? Well, he didn't go over his time limit. He had 16 seconds left. So he was given kind of an embarrassing math lesson about, the board's inability to properly manage a budget without demanding that we pay another 16 or 17 million dollars, whatever that was. And he laid it out very articulately, did a great job. Didn't go over his time limit. But I guess it was an arrestable offense. That, along with being a whistleblower, as the previous speaker already talked about. But what was he talking about? I mean, really, any school board that spends $768,000 to implement a program called SCL to teach kids to, I guess, hate each other, is that worth us paying $16 million for? Paying $110,000 to hire some race czar to stir up emotion and negativity. Is that worth another $16 million for us to pay? Is that worth our money to pay more? Okay. It's just not working. Okay. He had some good points, and he had like 2 more points to make, and he was done. That was it. But I'm at 2 minutes and 44 seconds. He was done. But anyways, going to the end, what I was talking about at first, CRT, critical race theory, it's not really a theory. It's more of a call to action. It's a call to action, and you guys have taken up that call to action so far, most of you. And some of you haven't, and I appreciate it. So that's all I got right now. I think I'm almost at my 2 minutes and 44 second mark. I don't want Captain Death to speed rope down and arrest me. So I'm going to go take my seat. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Dallas. Anybody else? Christy Witt.
Hi, my name is Christy Witt. Thanks for letting me speak again. School board, Dr. Thacker reports to you, not the other way around. I'm here tonight to ask you to look at your policies and fight for our kids. The ones who want to be in school, the teachers who want to be here amidst the chaos of discipline, lack of structure, and consequences of actions. Suspension and bullying reporting, according to your reports, have went down 66%. Is it because SEL works and our kids are one big happy family, or is it due to restorative practices? Are we allowing the inmates to run the asylum? Nobody believes your reporting, and teachers are fed up with behavior, especially at the middle school level. Do you ever show up to the middle school or high school unannounced, just to observe passing periods or the lunchroom? We have numerous kids who threaten to hurt people or shoot people up who are allowed back in the building. That's insane. Teachers not being supported and sending the same kids to the office day after day with no repercussions. Last month, a parent with genuine questions and concerns went over his 3-minute limit and was arrested. The most polite, mild-mannered parent I've ever heard speak, and he's arrested. Where was his second chance or grace? In October 2020, an interview with the city of South Bend, Dr. Thacker and Michael Patton talk about out-of-district kids being a valuable source of revenue. Is that all these kids are, to a point where they can be suspended up to 10 times? 10 times? Is it PHM's position to allow bad behavior, threats of violence, actual violence over and over and over? I know the solution at the high school level is Penway. What about the middle school having a Penway as well? Your policies aren't working. You've ran a successful school district for at least the last 30 years, and in a blink of an eye, you turned everything upside down. You look the other way for money. What happened to zero tolerance? Heck, I'm okay with second chances and giving grace too. But if kids don't want to learn, don't make everybody else miserable around them, the teachers and the students. When parents pull out your best and brightest to homeschool or put in another district, when administrators don't have their kids go here K through 8, when the board's kids don't go here or won't be back next year, it's time to admit something is clearly wrong. Please be the leaders you were meant to be and protect our kids. They've been through a lot. It's time to take a stance. No to CRT, restorative practices, and other indoctrination. It's time to go back to the basics. Also, Mr. Garrett has asked numerous times for you to take a stance against teaching CRT. You look down, ignore him, and pretend what he's saying doesn't matter. It's embarrassing to witness. If you choose to ignore that some of your teachers and administrators are complicit in this propaganda, indoctrination, can you be arrested? You took an oath of office. After all, the IDOE condemns this, correct? Again, Dr. Thacker works for you, board, but who do you work for? You took an oath of office. If not you, who? If not now, when?
Thank you, Mrs. Witt. Anybody else? Shelley Treeley.
Good evening, President Riley, Dr. Thacker, members of the board, and Administrator Shelley Treeley, 429 Calhoun. May is a month of celebrations, as it should be, but tonight I want to celebrate those students who haven't met the milestones imposed by society, especially standardized testing. For those who haven't made those gains, I assure you, your teachers are here for you. As a Cubs fan, I am one of those who's more than qualified to talk about the impact of extra innings. This talk is for students who need those extra innings. I know what loss feels like, and I also know the value of extra innings, especially 11-16. Students, you are not defined by test scores. I want to talk about one student in particular, a struggling learner. An academic learning was hard for him. As a resource teacher, I've been invited to many parent conferences over the years. This student's mom called for a meeting with the kindergarten teacher and principal long before RTI was the norm. She asked, if my son continues to learn at the rate he's learning now, what will happen when he takes I-STEP? Without missing a beat, the teacher responded, he'll fail. Not good enough, said the parent. So interventions at home and at school were set in place. Third grade testing came along. He got a big old fat DNP, but he didn't give up. He went for extra innings. I kept in touch over the years and I watched him keep plugging away. In middle school, he was the very last one to cross the finish line in cross country. I stood in the background and watched Coach Burns run out and help him cross the finish line. Sports really wasn't his thing either. Or so we thought. In high school, he took the beatings of black flag wrestling practices. His senior year, he finally broke the line, but only after a crushing defeat at the black and gold match by a sophomore. Coach Harper allows for extra innings also. He earned his place on the varsity squad. Just shy of his 16th birthday, he ran a marathon, came in nearly dead last, sped up a few years, and he qualified for Boston. I cheered silently because that's the rule. As he was awarded his diploma with academic honors from Penn High School, hard work pays off. So for all those students and parents who are feeling defeated, listen and act. Dr. Thacker is right. We do need the triangle. Together we are better. I don't know where this young man would be without his teachers and coaches from PHM. They helped mold him. Students, listen to your teachers and coaches. Parents, partner with us. Just yesterday, this young man and I got the chance to catch up. We talked about his new promotion and his job salary increase. 10 years into his career, and he has catapulted past my salary of 34 years of experience. And while I know my W-2 is not the sign of success, money sure is nice. I'm so proud of this PHM product. He ended yesterday's conversation as he usually does. Mom, I love you. I love Philip too. And we hung up.
Thank you, Ms. Treeley.
Thank you. Thanks to all those coaches and teachers too.
We wish that young man continued success. Who's
On his
next?
way.
Smith.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michaela Strick-Prather, and I teach fourth grade at Moran. This is my 6th year teaching overall and 3rd year at Moran, and I know a lot of times people come up here to tell you about an issue that they want you to work on or a problem that needs solved, but I'd just like to tell you some positive things that have been happening this year in my classroom and at Moran. So the district added some interventionists at the elementary level this year, and I personally have seen how those interventionists, along with our reading specialists at our Title I schools, are making a really positive impact for our students. For instance, we just got some recent test scores back, and we have seen a lot of growth in the students specifically that are working with those teachers. So I'd just like to shout out Shelley Treeley and Mary Clark over at Moran, because I'm really proud of the work that they've done with our kids. Additionally, I'm pretty proud of the work I've done with my kids this year too. We had over half of our class move up by a category on a recent test that we took in English language arts, and nobody went down, so that's good. We can't, erase all of the effects of COVID that happened on our academic learners in one year, but I think that we're making some gains, and I'm proud of it. Also this year, some other exciting things that have been going on. We've seen a return of field trips at the elementary level, which I think our students are all really excited about. Just this last week, in 2 days, I saw 3rd, 4th, and 5th on really big field trips at Moran. My 4th graders went to the Studebaker Museum, the Oliver Mansion, and the South Bend History Museum, so they got to do all 3 in one day, and they were overjoyed. I heard we got to eat lunch outside of the school, and I was so excited for them that they were getting to see all of these fun and new learning experiences outside of their classroom. We currently have a school-wide initiative going on called One School, One Book, where every single kid in our school is reading the same book because of the rabbit. And we had an assembly to get kids pumped about it. We have staff members reading chapters out loud on Flipgrid. We have bookets, we have prizes, we have a lot of things going on right now. But it's really great to see our entire school united under one cause, and it's really great to see kids getting excited about reading. Finally, I know I have been here in the past to discuss Sphera Robot pilot program that's happening at Moran with you guys. I know that you guys know we had a really cool Thanksgiving Day parade in the fall, but right now we're actually having a Moran 500 in celebration of the Indy 500. So our gym has currently been turned into a racetrack, and we have race cars driving all around the track for each grade level. And shout out to Jessie Kinney for all of her hard work on that. Overall, I feel like the school year has contained a lot of successes for our students at Moran, and particularly the ones in my class. And I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing what we're able to achieve and celebrate next year. Thanks.
Michaela, thank you so much. How long have you been a teacher at Moran?
This is my third year.
Well, your enthusiasm is infectious. Thank you so much for everything you're doing over there. Who's next? Mrs. Brzezinski.
Good evening, Laura Rosinski. My daughter actually went on that Moran field trip, talked about Oliver Mansion, showed pictures, talked about little stool, helped little man get up in bed. It was awesome. She really enjoyed it. She was very excited to finally go back on something normal. I don't know exactly what I want to talk about tonight. Just wanted to say, you know, I'm apologetic that we can't seem to resolve this critical race theory issue. I should say, you know, you keep saying there's nothing in the curriculum. We keep saying, no, it's being applied as praxis. We have 2 board members who are saying, please, could you please, we want to get this taken care of, and never shows up on the agenda, which is very sad to me. So I guess I'm going to keep asking every meeting, what is Penn's stance on critical race theory praxis being put in the classroom? What is your stance? I've asked this now for a year and I still don't have an answer. If you can't answer that, how about giving me a policy that protects my children from ideological indoctrination? I can speak back to Mrs. Koda's. My daughters also have the same teacher who got that survey again, and this is a continuous problem with this particular teacher that we're having. It's okay, he sat at his desk, so it was anonymous by Google, you know, survey. It's anonymous. I'm not real sure PPRA thinks that's exactly right. And so I would like to have something as a parent saying, hey, you know, Penn really cares about my kids. They want to make sure they're getting balanced on both sides. We want to make sure that no teacher is, you know, pushing, you know, their beliefs. You know, I know it's impossible to stop some things coming through, but, you know, you should always be able to balance it. My mother-in-law is a teacher. I understand this, you know, things get out, but you have to be able to do that. And I, as a parent, like to say, you know, this policy is in place. I can always refer back to this policy. And I can say, did they offer you both sides? I don't care what your teacher believes. They can believe whatever they want, but were you given both sides to the issue so you can make up your own mind? I want to know that that's being done. I want to know that that is, you know, in place for me to be able to check and to refer back to. So I am looking forward to maybe Dr. Thacker putting this on an agenda after a year. Maybe, possibly. Would be nice. Don't you agree, to get this taken care of so we don't keep showing up and asking about this over and over again? Wouldn't that all be nice for us to stop? I mean, I can keep putting FOIAs in and you can keep having your lawyers, you know, act like I'm harassing and a bigot. I like that one that you guys sent down to the PIC. That was kind of fun. Not giving the whole story. I did, you know, good faith, just wanted to see some videos. And that was a real eye opener for me, exactly how you guys were going to portray me when I just tried 6 weeks to make an appointment to see a couple of videos that I was offered to watch. So that was very eye opening for me, that that's exactly how you'll paint parents, especially after Mr. Rutten was arrested. And reminder, you can drop charges, Mr. Riley. It was society and you that made those charges. So I think you can probably just say, hey, I don't want to charge this guy.
Minutes have expired. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to anybody who is waiting in our overflow room who would like to come up and address the board. We'll wait for just a moment or so. And while we wait for that, Mrs. Hugenboom, do you know whether we have anybody who's wanting to join us virtually?
We do not have any virtual requests.
Okay. Okay. With nobody else wanting to address the board, then we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is board reports and requests. Board members, do you have anything to report or request?
I attended Region 2 meeting along with Dr. Thacker and Mr. Linsky. And that was, a lot of it was award ceremony. And PHM received the commendable award. And we didn't get our little medal thing, and I see we don't even have a thing to hang it on, but it's supposed to be coming. And give this to Mrs. Huba, and she can file it. Also, our board member, Angie Gates, received the advanced level of the professional board development education provided by ISBA. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other board reports or requests?
Yeah, I have two things, that's okay.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to extend my greatest congratulations to our senior class. We're meeting them next week at graduation, and I talked to Sean earlier, talked about it again, almost between $9 and $10 million of scholarship money, success in academic success and extracurricular success in athletics. Our senior class, again, is exemplary in what they've been able to accomplish and the things that they've been able to do. Also, I'd like to thank Lisa Langfeld for allowing me to attend their meeting last week with ISTA at the Chicory Cafe, and I got the chance to talk with several teachers. And of course, since I was there, critical race theory did come up. And I hopefully got to explain some of the concepts. Some people don't quite understand maybe why I'm making such a big deal about it. And I think that some of the teachers may be afraid or think that if we take a stand or something like this, it's going to put them in a bad situation. But in my opinion, it's going to free them up because they won't have to worry about what the definition is or what their expectations are anymore. That won't be the sound. They won't even have to worry about it. They'll be out of it. It'll be on the administration to determine what's to be done. And then if there's a problem, the administration will have to deal with it and the teachers won't have to. That's the way I see it. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's my pursuit. Because I do not want to put any teacher in a situation where they feel uncomfortable or afraid to teach. I mean, I want the teachers to be empowered the way I was empowered when I was a teacher. I felt like Superman because the relationship I have with my students, the things we're able to do. And it was like every day in school, I was on a high because I was a teacher working with students. They were being successful. They were doing what I asked them to do. I just can't explain to you how awesome it is to be a teacher and see the students react to you and work with you and be successful. It's amazing. So for me to hear that teachers are feeling, uncomfortable, it's sad. Every day should be the greatest day of their life when they come into that classroom. And that's the way I see it. So that is what I'm trying to do. Not put someone in a bad situation, but I'm trying to empower them so that they can do their best job in the classroom for our children. That's what it's all about. And that's what we should be all working toward. Parents, teachers, administrators, and the students themselves. So don't forget this, in the triangle of success, there is a section for students. So students have to bring something to the table as well. So good attitude, good effort, obey the rules, be nice to each other. Do not bully people. Those are, I call them standards of kingsmanhood that are noblest and best. And I preach those to my students for the 43 years that I taught there. So, sorry, Lisa. Thank you very much for inviting me. I had fun. I hope you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett. Other board members?
I just wanted to reiterate, maybe somebody in the administration could look into, I really thought with Christy, what brought up with the money for the DC, all those opportunities that were lost for kids for those 2 years. And I, as a parent who's had a middle schooler and knows what goes into some of those fundraising opportunities, I really thought she was onto something with letting those monies, those parents have worked hard and taken the time to do, sometimes spent money they wouldn't have spent somewhere in order to advance that pot that their kid had for travel purposes. Is there any way we can look into seeing that that money could follow them for a future trip at PHM? Thanks. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Sometimes we don't know since different schools handle everything. So thank you for that. And thank you. And then I just want to put in a plug. This is probably the wrong spot, but there is tomorrow night in our community a suicide awareness and prevention, 6:30 to 8. It's for 12 and up. Everyone in this room deals with students. Everybody in this room is probably aware of what an issue that is. It was brought up at the meeting. And so if you want to register, free event, 6:30 to 8, an awareness for Ranger Community Church, you can get online and register. It's a passion.
Thank you, Mrs. Gates. Appreciate that very much. And I second the request for information on the Discovery travel matter, please. Other board member reports and requests?
So I have some good news to report.
Do
which
share.
is, the PHM Education Foundation Gala was this weekend. Over 300 people were in attendance at Palais Royale. And I just have to, tip my hat to the Education Foundation, especially a couple people: Jennifer Turnblom, Amber Kennedy, Amy Chris, Pete Gillen, the president, and the entire planning team. They raised over $140,000 through this event. They celebrated the wonderful contributions of Julie Schwartz, who was beloved to one person sitting up here.
Especially to one
Sister.
person, but by all.
She won the Cornerstone Award. And I'm also really happy that they integrated the talent and the enthusiasm of our students so well through the event. Prairie Vista, Elsie Rogers, and Horizon all won PHM Emmy Awards. And Mrs. Trilly, your son epitomizes the type of learner. Thank you. We want to graduate here at Penn. And I'm proud of him as a school board member and his family. And the event really quietly spotlighted another lifelong learner, which is that all of the donations went through an app called Give Grove, which is a local organization. And the inventor, the coder of Give Grove, Alex Saidnai, graduated from Penn High School, had played in I'm a proud jazz band mom, played in the jazz band, went off to IU, studied computer science, graduates from IU, decides he wants to do a tech startup, but he doesn't just want to do a tech startup. He wants to do a tech startup that makes the world a better place. So he invents a platform that allows people to donate specifically to not-for-profits. And I just think of Alex and your son, Mrs. Trilly, as an incredible investment. Like, this community invested in these kids. He turns around, comes back to this community, creates a business, invents something. I don't know what it's worth now, but I think it's in the millions, employs people. And it just going to the awards night and seeing the diversity of awards from agriculture, Mr. Bieler, to the sciences, to the arts. 50% of graduates graduating with an honors diploma. That's really impressive. 70 graduating with associate's degrees. Exceptional education students making a significant difference in the community by making these 10,000 meals. $9 million the senior class earned in scholarships. And it just really struck me that this investment, our community's investment in their children through these schools is paying off in really incredible ways. So that didn't go unnoticed with me. Hats off to everyone in the Education Foundation for their amazing work. And I'm appreciative of all the work that takes place to cultivate such incredible students.
Thank you. It sure was a night to remember.
It was a great night.
It is amazing what the PHM Education Foundation continues to do. And hats off to the foundation. Hats off to Jen Turnblom. I was blown away, not simply by all of the things that the foundation has done this past school calendar year or school year, but the vision going forward and the unveiling of that vision of taking STEM to the elementary schools and having STEM students from the high school be ambassadors for STEM to the elementary schools, and to have all the patrons at dinner that night help in part to fund that initiative. It's an extraordinary privilege. It's a great organization doing great things. And so I too echo Ms. Roach's comments about not just the gala, but also just the PHM Education Foundation, and many thanks for all the wonderful things that they're doing. Other board member reports or requests?
Oh, just two quick ones. Again, I want to reiterate Mr. Garrett on congratulating the senior class. Definitely a couple of rough years with COVID and whatnot. So hats off. Look forward to the celebration at Notre Dame next Monday. Dr. Short, the curriculum selection events or program nights we have, hats off on that. I mean, from you all the way down to the PLCs, I was blown away. There's several people in this room, I think, attended those. The only request I have is if somehow we could video that, or because I think it'd be an awesome resource for, as parents go into high school or kids go into the middle school, just the attention and detail and passion those teachers and PLCs put into the language arts curriculum. And I was very proud and, I mean, blown away. I think we talked afterwards, the Schmucker event. It was very well put together. So thank you for doing that. I'd like to get it out there, though. I think it's a great resource for incoming classes.
Sure. So just to respond, if I may, really quickly, part of the intention when those were created is that at open houses in the fall, language arts teachers will have access to that information for parents, so that we will be able to, as parents come back to their child's language arts class for the fall of the year, then they'll have the same slideshow, and they'll be able to utilize that as part of the evening. I know there's a lot they want to get out, but that can be a part of what they do.
I want to go back to a few of those teachers' classes. So it was exciting. You could tell they were passionate. It's just an amazing thing we put together. So congrats.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough. Any other board members or reports or requests?
Most of mine were stolen for tonight, but I was going to say, Mr. McCullough and I had the opportunity to go to the English language arts over at Schmucker. They did an outstanding job, and I'm glad to hear that even though attendance was a little light at that one that night, thought it was extremely informative and helpful. I'm glad to hear that we'll continue to do that in the future. I think that is a good practice, so that we're not reactive, that we're proactive and letting parents know how language arts materials are selected, and then what that school year looks like and the selection of materials. So it was very helpful. Senior recognition night, it was amazing. So everybody's already waxed poetic on that, but also had the opportunity to attend Walt Disney just last week for their cultural day. I look forward to it being cultural night again, where we can bring the community back in and have a wonderful community event. But between that and then I'm looking forward to the Moran 500 later this week. It is amazing throughout the middle school with that language arts presentation, high school with the senior recognition, and then just two of our elementaries, to see the passion of our teachers bleed into our students and the work. It's just been an amazing 2 weeks of kind of different events that I've had the opportunity to attend. And just, I know it feels like it's the end of the year, so we'll kind of slide into the end of the year, but to see all the hard work as we finish up the school year is just incredible.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Turnwell. Any others?
Well, I'm just gonna say compliment Grissom's group, because I attended that night. It was a good presentation to two people, one patron and one board member. But they did an excellent job.
Fair enough. Well, the next regular meeting of the Penn-Harris-Madison Board of School Trustees will convene on Monday, June 27, 2022 at 7 p.m. There being no further business before the board, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
Second.
I second.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Any opposed vote nay. Motion carries by a vote of 7-0. We're adjourned at 9:05 p.m.